Hey kids, it's your old pal Mr. Sketchy. I'm coming to you from my campsite that I just found. It's not really mine, but some fool last night was making Sasquatch noises in the wood, and it frightened all the people away, so I figured I'd come hang out in their tent, until they come back, make sure everything's safe, you know what I mean? So, I'm gonna make a little sketching video, maybe take a little nap, and hopefully they'll be back by then. Yeah, some fool was out in the woods making Sasquatch noises like this, all night. Finally, these people got scared, they left. So, anyway, I'm gonna keep an eye on their stuff. So I'm gonna do a little video, then maybe take a nap. Okay.
Alright kids, today we're going to be drawing a female figure. This will be much the same as what we did last time if you watched the male figure video. So we're going to start off just like last time by drawing kind of a measuring stick to measure our figures and proportion everything correctly. So I want to start about 1 inch up above the bottom of my paper, and that's going to be the ground level. And then I want to make 8 more marks from there. So you're going to be marking from the 1 inch mark to the 9 inch mark, making a mark every inch. Alright, so after I make those marks on both sides, I'm going to connect them together. So I just need to make a horizontal line going from each mark over to the other one. So I start on the left and work to the right. It doesn't really matter which way you go. So what we should end up with is 8 1-inch sections with a little margin at the bottom of the page. And we're going to use that to measure our figure just like last time. So again, we're going to be working with a figure that is 8 heads tall. It's a little on the taller side, but it breaks down well for proportioning. If you want to rescale your figures and make them shorter, that's easy to do. You just make the head a little bit bigger, but you can still kind of use this measurement initially. The 8 heads is good because it breaks down, so the bottom of the hips are about halfway down, and the top of the hips is about 3 heads. It just all breaks down fairly well when we do it that way. So I'm going to start counting from the top here and number the number of heads each measurement is. It's a little different from a regular measuring stick where we're measuring from the bottom. You could do it that way too. It's perfectly reasonable. There's no reason not to. This is just the way I chose to do it. So I'm going to draw a vertical line to help me with my symmetry. That's all this is doing. I just want to try to make things the same on both sides of this line. I'm going to start by sketching in the head. So right here at the bottom of the one head area is where the chin's going to be. At one head down. Now I'm going to draw in my head shape. For this I just kind of want an upside down egg shape. We can keep it real simple for now. We're going to start by just kind of making a mannequinized figure and showing you how to draw that. Drawing a mannequinized figure is a good way to work out poses and get everything positioned and proportional before you draw in details. Alright, so here we're going to mark the bottom of the hips. The hips are going to be, or the bottom of the hips is going to be at about the 4 heads mark. So it's about halfway down is another way to think about this. So for the hips, for our more feminine figure, we want them to be a little bit wider. So they're going to be a little bit more like the shoulders. So we basically have 2 head heights of width for both the shoulders and the hips on this figure. You can adjust those a little bit to kind of make the shape more what you're looking for. But as a guideline, that's a good place to set it. Alright, so this is going to be the shoulder width. These are a little bit high. We're going to make the shoulders lower down than that. And this is going to be the hip width. And you can use your ruler and just measure inches because we set it up so that each inch represents 1 head. Alright, so let's see. Next thing we're going to do. I'm going to kind of mark where the torso is going to be here. This is kind of the box we're going to draw it in. Alright, now I want to position the collarbone. So the collarbone is going to be at about 1.5 heads down. And then the neck's going to be going between that collarbone and the head. All right, so let's see. The chest is going to be a little narrower than the shoulders. We want to leave room for the shoulder joints to attach. So it's going to be kind of narrower in through here. And it's kind of a cylinder shape in mannequinized form. It's almost like a cylinder that kind of tapers down a little bit. And then we have a big sort of ball joint for the belly. And then we have kind of a squished reverse cylinder for the hips. We'll add in just a second here. So right in the center of this ball joint that is the belly, that's where the navel is going to be, and that's at about 3 heads height. That's also where the top of the hips are roughly. So navel, top of hips are almost the same area, and that is about at 3 heads height. So when you're kind of simplifying this later on, remember the hips are about halfway down, and the navel is about 3/4 of the way to the hips. Yeah, so our hip shape is kind of the same as our rib cage shape, except kind of flipped and squished a little bit. So you can see we got kind of a rib cage, and then we got kind of a belly area, and then we've got kind of a hip area. And we're keeping them simple for our mannequinized form. When we draw in details, we can make it more complex. I'm going to add the shoulders about here. So just kind of right below 1.5 heads down. And then when you're doing the limbs, it's a good idea to kind of add the joints and then connect them. So the elbow here, the bottom of the elbow is going to be about 3 heads down. It's going to be about even with the navel. You can check on your own body. If you hang your arms down to your sides, the bottom of your elbows is about even with your belly button. All right, I'm adding this hip joint here. Oh, sorry, this wrist joint. So we're going to have to move the wrists out a little bit because of the wider hips. The more masculine, slender hipped figure, the arms can hang straight down, but you might need a little flare if there's wider hips here. And the wrist is going to be just below the bottom of the hips. So now I'm going to draw a little square for the palm, and then another little square for the space that the fingers are going to occupy. Then you can divide that up into fingers if you want. Add a little thumb. Remember that the last knuckle in the thumb should be about even with the edge of the palm. And add the other elbow. Same thing on this side. Elbow is going to be at about the 3 head line. It's going to be like sitting right on it, about even with the navel. And then the wrist is going to come down to here. All right. I'll move this wrist a little bit. It's kind of in the way of the hips there. I want to open that up a little bit. There we go. That'll be better. And we'll connect that together. And add the palm. Again, it's kind of a square shape. The palm takes like 1/4 of a head, maybe-ish. Maybe a little more than that. All right, now I'm going to add the knees. The knees are going to sit on the line for 6 heads. And the heels are going to sit on the line for 8 heads. That's also where the ground is. All right, so now we're going to kind of draw some tapered cylinders connecting the knees and the hips. The hip joint's going to be like right here. I got another one right here. We're going to kind of round out the waist here a little bit. And we'll add the neck. looks like a long neck. I could probably take those shoulders up a little bit if I wanted to. There's a little bit of curve to the shoulder. There's a transition between the kind of top of the shoulder into the neck. It's like a curved transition. For the calf here, we're adding another sort of tapering cylinder. And here's the foot here. Draw kind of two angles, or an angle for the kind of point of the foot where the toes get longer, and then connect that. Adding another tapered cylinder for the other thigh, and a skinnier one for the other calf. And we'll add the other foot. This one's going to be kind of turned to the side. So there's our mannequinized figure. So we can draw that in different positions to get different poses, make sure that our proportions are right before we add details. And when you're working with a real person, you can adjust this as needed to make it fit their body type more. This is just kind of a starting point. All right, so let's move on and draw a more detailed figure. All right, so we'll just start out with kind of an upside down egg shape for the head. More or less like this. Gonna add the neck. Neck's probably like a quarter or a third of a head. Collarbone. Gonna mark where the hips are gonna go. Curve the torso up like this. Shoulders a little bit narrower, the rib cage a little bit narrower than the hips. When we add the shoulders on, they should be about the same width. This is where the knee's gonna go. At the 6 heads mark, connect those together with kind of a tapering cylinder. And you can add mass or take it away for different body types here. Just kind of depending on what you're trying to draw. Another sort of tapered cylinder down to the heel. You can see when I'm drawing my mannequinized figure, and I'm going to add more detail, I draw it lightly. And I also don't necessarily add all the different mannequinized elements in. You can kind of be selective about what you want to draw. Depending on the complexity of the pose, you might focus more on certain parts than others. This is a pretty simple pose, so I don't need to go into that much detail. But if you've got a complex pose, you might want to really mannequinize it and think about how all those forms would be oriented. Alright, so wrist is going to be about here. I'll connect those together. And I'm going to bring this up to the shoulder. Shoulder joint's going to pop out a little bit from the rib cage. And it's going to go up like this. Alright, other arm. I'm going to start on the shoulder with this one. Add the elbow here. And then I'm going to add the wrist kind of up in an upper position. So I'm kind of measuring the distance I want the wrist to be. So I can put the wrist going off any angle or the forearm going off at any angle. But I just want to kind of measure. It should form an arc to where it would sit resting. So she's kind of waving. Hi. Hello. Hello, I recognize you, she says. She recognizes somebody on the beach. She's going to be on the beach. We're going to draw her in a swimsuit. Alright, so now I'm going to add in some details. I'm going to kind of darken up this chin line. I'm going to draw an eye line about halfway down the face. I'm going to draw kind of a center line for the face to show which way it's going and align the features. I'm going to add some eyebrows and a nose. I'm just going to define the nose with a little shadow underneath. Then kind of a lip-shaped shadow and then another shadow under the lower lip. I'll keep the features really simple. We'll get into drawing the features a little bit more, but we'll just keep them real simple for now. And I add the ear. The ear's at about the same level as the eyes. the top of it is, and the bottom's about the same level as the bottom of the nose. And give her all a little hair. There we go. Alright, now we're starting to define the shoulders a little bit more. The arms. Oh, we still have to add a hand over here. I'm going to bring this shoulder in a little bit. I think it got too far out there. Then bring it down. I think that's a little better. Got a little bit of turn to her body, maybe. I'll add in the thumb, the base of the thumb meat right there. There's a little curve there in your hand you can see sometimes. And some fingers. There we go. Just keep the hands simple for now. We don't have to worry about that. We'll worry about drawing hands more later. Keep adding details. I'm going to put her in a swimsuit. A modest bikini. We don't want to get too scandalous, kids. There we go. Don't forget the belly button. Again, that's right on the 3 heads mark. Well, at the top, kind of a tank top here. Add the fingers and the thumb. My writing is kind of getting in the way. I won't worry about that too much though. And we're going to add some darker lines. I want to add a little bit of definition of the kneecap there. And you want to think about which way the kneecap is pointing when you add that. So this foot's going to be turned out to the side a little bit. So I'm making it turned out a little bit more. And that curves in and back out at the heel. Curves in a little bit at the arch of the foot. And draw the toes, and then just bring it back. So, I think this knee needs a little bit of correction. I think this one should be slightly turned out as well. Not as much as the other one, but turned out a little bit. A little more like that. There's the calf. All right, and there's the foot. You can add in the toes if you want. A little bit of a curve in at the arch of the foot. So there we go. Now this is a pretty tall lady. She looks pretty tall to me. Maybe she's a volleyball player. She's out on the beach to play a little volleyball. I don't know. You can adjust those proportions by changing the head size. It's pretty easy to do. But once you kind of get a feel for drawing with the 8 heads, you should be able to do it without having to measure everything perfectly, have a little better feel for it. I'm going to adjust her head just a little bit here, I think, make it a little bit bigger. But we're just about done with this. So I bring the chin down a little bit and make the top of the head a little higher. And there we go. Well, all right. Our finished sketch should look just about like this. And that's it, everybody. Have a good one.
Uh-oh, kids. I think I hear them coming back. Now, I don't want to scare them, so I'm going to beat a hasty retreat so I'm not here when they get back. But they'll see all their stuff is safe, and they'll be very grateful. So anyway, hopefully I'm going to be able to make it back into town sooner rather than later. I'm still kind of lost out here. I'm not really sure which way I'm going anymore. So anyway, enjoy the video. I do need you to put $5 in that can for me. I'm gonna need it when I get back to town. I'm running low on funds. All right, bye.
Alright kids, so you can pause the video here if you need to catch up. Here's what our finished project should look like. We'll see you next time everybody. Bye bye.